So we're going to look at these template theories first. And the idea is that we go through life, we see different objects, and we form a memory of them, right? And these memories are these templates. And so we then match what we are looking at with the template that we have stored previously in our memories. So how do these templates work? Well, they are holistic, which means they are not analyzed. They're not, analytical, in other words. They are these holistic entities that we compare with other patterns by measuring how much the two patterns overlap. And this overlap is a key part of template theories. We've stored away an unlimited number of patterns. Get this, corresponding to every object that we have experienced. That's a lot of stuff, right? A lot of templates that we have. Whenever we see a new instance of one of these objects, it is matched to a stored template that is instantly activated and informs us of the name of the pattern we have just experienced. So that's template matching theory. Your book has the example of cardboard cutouts of letters. We can compare a letter we see with our cutouts and identify the letter by how well the one we are seeing matches the template. So here I took a K from our famous signatures. Here is one template for letter K. Pretty different than the one here. All it does share some similarities. But notice that it has to match in this object here. While it shares some of the characteristics of the one here in the signature, it does not match it. Template theories are not practical, right? When the set of possible patterns is really large, as in handwriting. They also fail to account for our ability to recognize brand new objects that we've never seen before. So how, for example, do we manage to read the handwriting of a person we've just met, handwriting we've never seen before? And how would you ever recognize, say, an unusual breed of dog if you've never seen one like it before, or a really unusual bicycle? It doesn't really do well with those kinds of situations. So there are problems with template theories. The problems include a requirement that there be this overlap between the new object and the template, and they have to be the same size and the same orientation. You have to be looking at the object from the same direction. That's not often the case. It's difficult to construct templates that match all the potential varieties of a particular pattern, like all the different types of dogs that you might encounter. Template theory doesn't reveal how two patterns differ, only that they're different. And a template theory does not allow for alternative descriptions of the same pattern. Do you see a rabbit or a duck? And if you look, you can probably switch from one to the other. Template theory can't really explain that. How we're able to see a rabbit one moment, where here are the rabbit ears. Here's its mouth. And then a moment later, be able to see a duck, where here we're dealing with the duck's bill. Quack, quack. So prototype theory is one way that the limitations of template theory can be dealt with. So instead of this template being a literal match to an object that you've seen before, the idea is that when we encounter these different objects, so in this case, we might encounter a variety of different types of dogs. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. A lot of varieties of size, shape, color, right? And out of all of these particular exemplars, these are the specific instances of dogs that we've seen, these are the exemplars, we construct a mental image of the typical or average type of dog based on the ones that we've seen. And that typical image is the prototype. And so we don't have to match it to a specific instance of a dog we've seen before. We can just match it to our prototype based on all of the dogs that we've seen before. So, I like prototype theory a little better than template theory. It's a little more realistic, I think. It does not require you to store a mental image of every object you've ever seen, which there's not much evidence that we do that. And there is actually a fairly good amount of evidence that we do create memories based on prototypes, not the specific instance. And just a note that prototype theory is not in your book, so you won't find it there. Prototype theory has been studied using human faces in this really interesting study. So they used a police identikit so to kind of create a variety of different faces. And so what they did is they started off basically with this prototype face, but they don't show this to the participants. Instead, they show the participants a variety of faces that are either very similar to the prototype, like this one that shares 75% in common with the prototype, or completely different, and these two in the middle, kind of in between. So they created these individual faces that vary in how similar they are to the prototype, varying from 75% similar to 50 to 25, all the way to 0% similar. In the learning phase, the participants, remember, they don't see this picture. They don't see the prototype. And so later on, they had to judge whether a series of new photographs they were looking at were new or old. And so they would look at the face, and they would just have to determine whether one of the ones they saw here, in other words, it'd be an old one, or if it's a brand new photograph that they've never seen before. And here we find the most interesting results. If you show the participants the actual prototype for the first time, participants rate it as old. They think they've seen it before. So here is the prototype. They never saw this picture, but they were very confident in saying that they've seen it before. The more similar the faces were to the prototype, the more they thought they'd seen them before, even if it was a completely new item. So here's a new face that they never saw before, but is 75% similar to the prototype. And you can see that because it was very similar to the prototype, they started to not be sure whether they've seen it before or not. So to summarize, if you show participants a picture that they've never seen before, but that picture is the average or composite of all these other faces that they've seen, they confidently believe that they've seen that picture before. Why? The idea is that when they were shown these individual pictures, they formed a mental prototype that was just like this.